we will move to our next presenter. We have Jacob Hamilton, who's a member or adult mentor of the Goon Squad and also an Altair employee too. So they definitely have a little bit of an advantage there, but he has some advanced tips and tricks he wants to show with the tool. So again, thank you guys and welcome, Jacob.
Yep. Hello. Thank you for the introduction. Like mentioned, I work for Altair Engineering. At Altair, I work as a controls engineer, but I also dabble quite a bit in data science. So I just wanted to quickly kind of go into two topics. One about interacting with databases, specifically to help combat the issue of that high speed. We need to get the data off of our scouting app to data analytics. And then the second thing I want to go over is an intro to actually doing machine learning inside of RapidMiner. So specifically, I'll focus on decision trees, but because it's a white box model, but yeah, so I'll get right into it. So with RapidMiner, as teams have kind of worked on it, you've probably seen that there is a connection button in your repositories. And with this, you are able to, out of the box, connect to some SQL databases. And it's very easy. So one of the one I'll focus on today is Postgres SQL. And so with it, you just have to pretty much put the IP address, the port, and then the database name, and it will connect to it. And so once you set up your connection with your database within RapidMiner, you can start using the read, write, and update functions. And so normally you have to use write SQL to do this, but as I'm going to show on the next slide, RapidMiner will build the queries for you. So once you establish your connection with the tools created, you are able to do extremely quick data reads. And so as you can see on the left-hand side, it'll kind of bring up the table name. So you can type in the table name and then you'll select build your query. You can either just select the table and that will select all the data, or if you just want parts of it. And one thing that I forgot to mention before I kind of started this, with databases, there's a lot of support for them, in your web apps, Python apps, and stuff like that. So at competition, when you're pulling data off, some teams use like QR scanners. Other teams use the apps for Bluetooth connection. You can have those apps pushing to the database, and your RapidMiner will automatically grab those updates when you rerun your file. So when you rerun this read function, you'll be able to get the updates quickly. So one thing that I will mention, and what makes this really nice, is the write database function. It will automatically build new tables if you do not have one selected. And what this allows you to do is separate the data that you've created and create a new set of data that is interactable still by the whole system, but you didn't touch it. So there's no risk of overwriting it when you make a new table. And again, kind of going back to you won't need to really know the SQL. If you put in a new table name, it'll automatically do the new table name. But if you are confident in the operations that you're going to perform, it does allow you to overwrite. And this is all within RapidMiner's kind of spreadsheet form, and I'll go into a little demo after. And so update the data. You can also update the databases, which do a very similar thing to write, but it'll change, and you can set which IDs you want. So the overarching theme of the RapidMiner database operations is the no code needed to actually interact with them. So, and one thing I would like to note is there is support for no SQL databases. This comes from the RapidMiner marketplace, which you can actually, if you don't ever find certain functionality that maybe is not in the base, there is the RapidMiner marketplace, which you can find at the bottom right or bottom left, sorry, that will give you a search engine. Specifically here, I was focusing on that you can grab the NoSQL. A lot of the extensions that are actually in the marketplace are made by our team. It's just additions that we didn't want to bog down the base package with, or the developers can continually update as well. It doesn't have to be in a version update. So when you select this NoSQL, you can also attach to like Mongo databases. So really, you can cover all the grounds on what your app is using. So I just kind of go over a brief thing on how to connect to a Mongo database. It's very similar. You just set up your database name, the location of it. So whenever you see host, that is your IP address. And then the port for the databases is actually a predetermined one. So if you're using Mongo or Postgres or something, unless if you did a slightly different setup, it should be the predefined, which RapidMiner will already bring in. And so since Mongo is a NoSQL, it will be JSON. You will come across JSON quite often. RapidMiner makes it really easy with a JSON to data. So it's a JSON format to a table format. And all it is a simple block put down. So if the JSON packet is put together correctly, RapidMiner can easily change it to a table. So another quick tip here is appending alliance data. A lot of the times when teams are scouting, you're scouting based on a singular robot. And sometimes the actual stats of how the whole team did can get lost in translation. So RapidMiner, you can actually easily use an aggregate function on so up in the top left, there's the 3 blocks, the first one being the aggregate, which then goes into the generate attributes and then into the join. You can aggregate based on certain keys. And so, for example, since our data set that we have here has match number, color, or alliance color, and event key, you are able to, every single match, conglomerate the total notes scored for the team. And this allows you then to do a combination of the data, which can help attach it to each predefined team. I'll kind of show that a bit more here in a second as well. So that leads us into, once we're kind of making those extra additions, that leads us into basics of machine learning. So the first thing that you have to do within RapidMiner is just set the role of it. Simply in the block, you can click it, and for the example that will be coming up soon, the did win function will be seen. You can set that as the label, and that is what it will try to predict on. The correlation matrix is another block that you will come across within RapidMiner. You can use this just to quickly create a matrix that will check to see if anything's super correlated, which means they're like linearly connected. And then finally, we'll go, the split block lets you split the data set into 80% training and 20% validation. So why decision trees were kind of the focus is because they are a no assumption. They don't make assumptions. And I should say on training, they don't make assumptions. And it's a white box model. So that means you can see what's going on it. So a lot of times we kind of see AI as this void. We know that we put data into it, but we really don't know what it's doing. So what we can actually use decision trees for is not only predicting, but we can use it for data exploration as well. So in the case, I took a data tree, and it's a basic yes or no response from something. And you can go down and see what kind of caused them to say yes or no. So up at the top, you can see that if they were not in a family, if they were unmarried, then they're very likely to select no on it. And so when you run into parts where it's like it's kind of 50-50, you can then split further from there to finally getting variables to kind of let you know what is the best course of actually predicting a win or loss in the case of first. To apply decision trees, it's extremely simple. You just have to put your training data into it. There's a few parameters in there. You can kind of play with them, see what they do, but for the most part, the defaults will work very well. And one thing that you might have to play with is just doing a discretize. This just means you're binning it, so you're creating ranges. So 0 to 5, 1 to 15 for note scored, for example. And this kind of forces the tree to split a little bit more evenly. So if you want to know, for example, how many teams have scored 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, you can set that up individually. So this is kind of a data set from this year, and this is a decision tree within RapidMiner. It was getting about 75% accuracy on predicting, and you can actually look and kind of see what caused a team to win. And sure enough, you can see right at the top you have total notes. No big surprise there. Then things kind of get interesting when you start kind of going lower into the tree. So kind of at the higher end of things, it's actually starting to become the sum of amps scored, or how their notes were being picked up. And you can kind of start going down further and further to really explore what's causing these wins and losses to truly happen. When there's a high amount of notes scored only in the speaker or something like that. So you can kind of use that to explore and look at what's causing the yes or no. And because of the way decision trees are set up, it can do more than just yes or no. It can also do numbers prediction or categorical prediction as well. And so I can just kind of go quickly into the tool. This is the model that I kind of set up to kind of show everything, just to kind of reiterate how easy certain things are. The connections to the database can be found up in the connections. There's actually a few places that you'll find it at. Once you start your database connection, you can set your repository. I'll give it a name for demo. And you can see that you'll have a few different systems you can pick from. Depending on how you build your app, will kind of change how you do it. But the process will always kind of be roughly the same. When you set up your database tool, you'll give it like an admin username and password. You can just type those in here, and then the database name, and you'll be able to connect to it. And so once the database, so every single time you run, you actually will be seeing the stuff on the right. So parameters. Type demos are always. So yeah, when you run your data, you'll always get the most recent, and it'll be in a table format. And so going back to kind of what was talked earlier, appending data can be done with these aggregation functions. So the aggregate block will let you kind of do sums or averages, and then you can also do another type of operation called generate attributes, which just lets you create your more complicated formulas and everything over time. So in this case, I was creating a speaker percentage, how many shots were in the speaker compared to amp, to feed the AI. And another, so the join is kind of the secret sauce to helping with adding on data, because if you don't set these certain values correctly, you will just start adding on extra data onto parts that you don't want to. So you need to make sure you can identify a ID based on, so for example, there'll always be three robots with one color, or the alliance color, blue or red, the match number, and then the event key. So that's why that was put there. And so, and kind of mentioned earlier, the correlation matrices. I know this one's kind of a big one, so I do apologize for that. You can just look at it to figure out what's highly correlated. What's highly correlated is closer to 1. So certain things like the total notes is highly correlated to the total notes. So you can kind of see which variables closely relate here. And then finally, we can kind of look at the way the decision tree is looked at within RapidMiner. So it actually kind of lets you go around it and kind of play with it and look at it interactively to see. So I can kind of follow this. Okay, what's here? So I can see that 43% or sorry, 43 total units were in here, making up 12% of it. And we can kind of look and see that the cause of their success was the total notes followed by a defense ranking. So there was a defense robot being played within this match. So you can kind of use for data exploration, like mentioned before, you can use it for straight prediction. And then another interesting one that I kind of like to point out is that if you follow the sum to teleop notes made to speaker percentage, you can see that there was a high success rate with a 0.6 to 0.8% speaker to amp ratio, which lines up with the game this year where for every 2 amps or 2 notes in the amplifier, you're able to score 4 into the speaker at most at a time for an amplified period, so the maximum efficiency there would be about 2/3 speaker. Yeah, so sorry, I know that was kind of a lot, and I hope I explained it correctly, and I can open it up to question and answers now.
Excellent, Jacob. And while people are thinking some questions here for you, would it be okay if people have a general question in RapidMiner to ask that too?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. In your case, the first part about the hooking up to the database, I might have missed it. Your main objective was to do what? To allow your teammates to use your notepads better, or your iPhones. What did that ultimately get you to do, or allow you to do there?
Yep. So sorry, I should have made a better point about that. So the ultimate goal of being able to interact with databases over just the CSV file is, not only can RapidMiner read in the most latest data, but can also push to it. So in the case of a lot of teams using the scouting apps, there's 6 different iPads or tablets happening at once. And so you're funneling it all into one area. I do know that internet connection is non-existent sometimes at times, but the core idea would be you have a scanner app or you have a base computer that's scanning in then and there. You don't have to do that. Oh, I have the data. I got to turn it into a CSV and now bring in from a CSV to the import data. It's already in. So it's just kind of a time save, and it just gives a more fluent workflow between RapidMiner and your application that you're creating. Did that answer the question?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And just again, I think it also helps, like I said, streamline your process there too. So, and people like using those, their phones and things like that. So, okay, great. Let's see if anybody has any questions for you. All right. So we have Jim Ryan, and we'll start with you. You had your hand up first.
I'm just wondering if the Eagle Evolution team could chime in here, since they've used RapidMiner, to share whether any of this is illustrative. Did it open your eyes to other things you can take advantage of? Is there anything new and useful here, does it seem like? Or no, you already kind of knew all this already? Anybody from the Eagle Evolution still on?
I would have to see in the actually it, does not look like it. I know they had a team meeting today, and that's
All
why I
right,
actually
that's
joined
fine.
late. Yeah,
No big deal. Sorry. All right, we can ask them later.
Eric, did you have a question?
Yeah, kind of question, kind of comment, and I like when we first started talking about AI Studio RapidMiner, we talked strictly about alliance selection, and I'm liking that we're seeing so many different ways to do it, because there's basically infinite choices of way of or anything that involves data. And one thing that struck me, and I think we observed it when attended the World Tournament, you can use, it wasn't for it, but it could be used. You could use RapidMiner for developing strategy as well. We noticed something at the Worlds that we didn't notice anywhere else, was the strategy of staging a robot who had a really good thrower and just staging it down at the other end and lobbing notes across the field. And the dispute was, and heard a couple of people talking about it, whether you gained an advantage doing that versus not doing that. And it's stuff like that, whether you want to play a defensive or an offensive game or lob notes down the field or whatever. It seems to me that AI Studio could be tremendously beneficial in planning out your strategy for, based upon one tournament, what your strategy is going to be for the next, or for the states, or for the worlds. And I like seeing this sort of stuff. So just, like I said, more of a comment than a question, but
So
my 2 cents.
it is funny that you mentioned that, because when going through the data or making the decision trees for each event, they were vastly different, the strategies that were causing the wins versus losses, predominant strategies.
Yeah, and that's awesome that a tool like this can, and obviously, no one's thinking it's going to be perfect, but you said it was, hitting 75%. That's a whole lot better than the 50% you get off of just a random coin toss. So yeah, that's fantastic. It's all, was it Moneyball, playing the odds.
Exactly. Well, good comment. And like you said, there's so many different ways you can use AI Studio RapidMiner for these things. It's just again, people see something about that, and again, it will change next year, whatever that competition is too. So, all right,
Jacob, can you see the question that was typed from Joseph Ford?
I'm looking at it now.
More general. I think it's an excellent question, because there's people on this meeting that have some experience with AI Studio, formerly RapidMiner, and some don't. So I think just some general recommendations. Besides, I would add, I guess, starting out, use the video tutorials that we've built and put on the First Robotics webpage from Altair. But if you're looking at what sorts of applications are suitable, hopefully you can sense that we've found that the alliance selection is a really good one. That's not to say it's the only thing that our data analytics could be used for. We, in fact, think it could be used for more. We just haven't proved that out yet. So we don't want to promise you and, hopefully not misset expectations. We're trying to show the ones that have highest confidence that we know will be useful and will work.
Yeah.
What
so
general? Yeah, go ahead, Jacob. What general?
Yeah, I can kind of take a shot at it too. So it's kind of finding how to tailor fit it to your best, or to what you need. So even the simplest things to do is an Excel sheet. You can export the Excel sheet to a CSV, and that CSV can be brought into RapidMiner, and that can sometimes be the most simplest form to interact with your data into the system. Other times it is these kind of higher teams and everything like that, you'll start seeing those custom apps built, and then it kind of becomes, how do we integrate RapidMiner with the app? But in terms of barriers to kind of entry, there's not really any, because you can use your basic Excel sheets into it, or you can use your scouting app for it. And for the Yeah, so the one thing I will kind of mention is it's a data miner. It's not a data gatherer, so you'll always have to make that form to get it in, but once it's in, you can really dive into the data.